So, yeah, the Babylonians were extremely successful, given the time and their challenges. It's impressive when you think about it. The more I think about it, the more respect I have for what they managed to do. Now, they decided on 60 for a variety of reasons. No one really knows exactly. Nice properties that 60 has, and they worked with their limited symbols. But the 60 we're not restricted to. We can take another value. And if you look at certain tribes in Africa, they based their counting on one hand. And because I have 5 fingers, they naturally start counting in 5s. Now, this isn't necessarily exactly how it was done. I'm making it a little simpler, but still. So, if we want to represent the quantity of 1, we'll take exactly that symbol. And we'll call it a rock, a little rock symbol, a little stone, indicating one thing. So the symbol is exactly how you could represent, how you could visualize it with little stones. And you're just making a little circle. 2 in our language. Of course, language is irrelevant to the number representation. Then you keep going like this. 3 stones, or rocks, 4 rocks. Now, when you have 5 rocks, you don't want the symbols to be too many, just like the Romans, just like the Babylonians. You don't want to have too many of the same symbol in a row. So when you have, in our language, 5, we change that to a finger. So a group of 5 becomes the next symbol. So then, the next one up is a finger and a rock. One group of 5 and another single. Then a finger and 2 rocks. A finger and 3 rocks. A finger and 4 rocks. Now, when you add another rock, yes?
Just so you know, for the book, it's not written correctly.
Rock symbol,
For
7.2.
the decimal, the table.
From 5 to 9.
Oh, there's
Yeah,
no typo
just
in the
so you know.
table?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a clear typo. What on earth happened there? Overwrite that. I'll check if the others are okay. Others seem okay. It's just 5 to 9. 5, 7, 8, 9. Yes, I'm not sure what happened there. That's a first draft. You know, these things happen. So this is what they should be. If it doesn't look like that in your book. Now, if you add another rock, another single, you have a group of 5 rocks, and you don't want 5 of the same symbol. 4 is okay. In this system, not 5. So a group of 5 rocks will form another finger. So in this system, your rule is essentially you don't want 5 of the same symbol. It's much simpler, perhaps, than the previous 2. And then you keep going, 2 fingers and a rock, and keep going like that. What's the next interesting number? You can have 2 fingers and 3, 4 rocks. Next one up, we'll make a group of 5 rocks, which makes another finger. And you keep going like this until you have 4 fingers and 4 rocks. What is that number? Is that in the table? Probably not. It is actually. 4 5s, that's 24. 24. Now if you add another rock, Then you get a group of 5 rocks making a finger. But then you have a group of 5 fingers, which has to roll over to the next symbol. 5 fingers make a hand. Now, I'm not going to get too elaborate in my drawing. You could, of course, be more creative, and perhaps they were, in how they drew their symbols, because that's a part of their culture. But we'll just keep it as simple, the diagrams as simple as possible. So 5 rocks make a finger, 5 fingers make a rock. Oh, 5 rocks make a finger, 5 fingers make a hand. And then you can have a hand and a rock, and it keeps going like that. Eventually you can have 4 hands. Yes, in the system one can have 4 hands. 4 fingers and 4 rocks. Let me just draw it over there. Make sure the camera can see this. So close. And if you keep counting, keep adding, never going above 5 in a row, you have 4, 4, 4 of each grouping. Now if you add another one, another rock, that's going to create 5 rocks, which becomes a finger. Then you have 5 fingers, which becomes a hand. Then you have 5 hands. So you need another symbol. Maybe a foot. I think the foot was this way, right? I don't know, foot is in the book. No, I didn't have a font for foot. Oh, there's foot, backwards, sorry. And you can keep going like this, but I think we get the point. Adding more symbols for the next grouping. 5 feet would need another symbol, and so on and so on. But of course, a very simple civilization like that, they don't count very far. So they don't have large quantities of anything. So the representation is sufficient for what they need. So a drawback of this is that you might have too many symbols. Every time you need to add more and more and more, the bigger your numbers get, but they didn't have that problem. So they didn't need to adjust their system to be more efficient for larger numbers, because that didn't happen. All right, so let's just practice this. Converting back and forth between the one-hand system and our familiar decimal system. There should be exercises in 7.2, exercise 7.1. Number 1A. So with any of these, the first kind of problems, converting back and forth from the system to our decimal system and the other way around. So can we find the decimal number for those one-hand numbers? First one is a hand and 2 fingers. So now I have to think, well, the rocks represent 1. Let's write over here, rocks represent a single 1. A finger, I'll write the 1 like this. A finger represents how much in our language? 5. A hand is the same as 5 fingers, so that represents or corresponds to 25. The quantity that we call 25. So, what I have here is 25, and this is a converting question, so you can write other numbers. And I say 2 times 5, but I'll just say 10 here. To represent 35. Very basic, so we don't need to get all fancy with how we write it, you just have to find it. Out of curiosity, in case it comes up, what would a foot represent in our language? 5 hands, so 5 times that, 125. And we're not going to go much bigger than that. Any bigger than that. B. A foot, 2 hands, and 3 rocks. A foot, 2 hands, and 3 rocks. So good. do it in pieces, it doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. We just said that's 125 and you can memorize it like that, it's all good. These will be 50 because each one's a 25, and these will be 3 to give me 178. I want to go too fast, let me know. How you want, if you want to break it down in a different way, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You can show as many or as few steps as you want with these questions, but if you don't show any of this and you write by accident 177, now I can't give you anything. So in a test, it's good to show something that I can identify was just a silly mistake, then I can give you as much as possible. But if there's no work shown, then I don't know if it's a fundamental problem that you're actually not understanding any of this, or it was just a silly mistake. You want to show that you can do the question, and silly mistakes happen. C, 3 feet and a finger. 3 feet and a finger. And you can make up random examples, many, many, many. These are now 3 125s. But maybe I need to go do separately. Maybe I can't do that in my head, that's okay. And then I have a 5. So 3 times 125, 375 plus another 5, so 380. And by having something here, just in case I make a little mistake in my head or on the calculator, mistakes happen there as well, I've shown that I do understand how these convert. So give me as many as you can. Any questions so far?
Why isn't the backwards L 145?
125.
But why is it?
Because
only
it's 5 groups of 25.
And it's not, like, you don't include the 5 fingers and the 4.
No, just, so if I add, let me just turn this so everyone understands what we're talking about. If I add a little rock here, now I have 5 rocks. That gets replaced by a finger. It's equivalent, you can't have both. Now I have 5 fingers. That gets replaced by the next symbol. Now I have 5 of those symbols. 5 in a row is not allowed. So that gets replaced by a foot.
Okay, so 5.
So I'm not adding a foot, it sort of rolls over and merges into a single next symbol. Any other questions? I'm not sure if this is simpler or more complicated. I think it's a little simpler because I'm only counting to 5, not 60. And a couple of new symbols, but they're fairly simple as well, easy to draw. Let's practice the other way. Now I'm given a decimal number, and I want to make the one-hand representation. There is a 37. So what would I have to do here? I'm going to have to break this up, just like I did for Babylonian numbers, just easier, because I'm only working with 5. It's not like I'm drawing 37 rocks. I have to make bigger groups. So I can say this is one group of 25. Then how much is left over? 12. But 12 is still too big for just rocks. So I can make that 2 groups of 5 plus another 2, or 2 singles. Okay. It's exactly the same as for the Babylonian conversion in this direction, just with 5s. So now 37 will be, this will be a hand, 1 hand, 2 fingers, and 2 rocks. How does it feel? easier because of the 5s, I hope. 60 had a lot more that could happen in terms of numbers and arithmetic, making it more difficult. Yes?
What happens when you get 5 feet?
You'd have to get another symbol, and I'm not sure what their symbols were. We've made these up for convenience. You'd have to have another symbol and another, yeah. But if we can handle these, what's the point of adding more symbols? Not sure what the symbol is. But yeah, there's no end. 128. 128, I have to break up according to these 5s. So what is the biggest grouping, let's call it, that I can fit in?
125.
125. I can fit in 125. And then I only have 3 left. So that'll be a foot and 3 rocks. Pretty simple. I just have to remember the numbers. 1s, of course, 5s, 25, 125. And we're not going to go much bigger than that, but I would have to remember the other ones as well if we were going to do that. But we're not. Everyone happy with 1 foot and 3 rocks? All right. C, 726. So how many 125s? Oh, that's a bad example. Because I just said we're not going bigger. I'm going to change that. Does anyone have a pen so I can remember to change that? Borrow a pen here. So I just said we're not going to go too big. So, how many groups of 125 can I fit in there?
4.
4. How much do I have left over? Well, what is 4 times 125? 500? So I have 26 left. Just to emphasize what we're doing, the 26 I can still break up into one group of 25 and 1 left. So that means 526 will be 4 feet, 1 hand, and a rock.